Been quite bad this week, missing days and not turning up for videos and stuff. But I had a good excuse. I mean, the Bosco video was obviously a good excuse to miss a video. But yesterday, I was basically coerced into going out on a day of eating and drinking and schmoozing and meeting people down in London for like a business type thing with work. It's not normally my shtick. I normally get a bit nervous about it. I don't even really know why. I'm quite good at meeting people. I'm quite happy with meeting people I don't know. I'm quite happy with just chatting and seeing what happens with an event. But I think the difference between what I normally choose to do at geeky events or on the internet and all that kind of thing is that the people I'm doing it with are people like me or people who are interested in me or that kind of thing. Whereas the people that I meet at these events, it's the industry I work in and the sales position I'm in that a lot of them are people that don't have, maybe they're not as old as me, or they don't have the responsibilities of like a wife and kid and house and car and blah 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 blah. So they're into their very fancy clothes and their very fancy sports cars and their very fancy watches, and to them we have to go somewhere that's a theme place or a this place or a that place. So it was interesting thinking, well, we're going to London. I'd been told we were going for some drinks and probably a meal. And the meal always tends to be quite good because what ends up happening is everyone orders something massive. And the first time I ever went to one of these meetings with this company, the first person ordered a steak. And the next person ordered a steak with a bottle of wine and I think it's like sweet potato fries or whatever. And the next person ordered that, but they added I think it was like a side order of fish. The next person replaced that with a crab that just sat on top of the steak, and the next person added in another thing, and then the steak got bigger and the crab got bigger, and and by the time it got around to me, I was like, I'll just have what he ordered. And then the next person added to that, and then when he got around, I was like, does anyone want to change? And everyone went, I love what that person said at the end. And then they added about 8 more bottles of wine onto the list. So I'm learning now that they're pretty fun scenarios to end up in, because at the end of the night someone else just covers it all and you go off on your way. So I thought that's a good reason to be told, go down there, have a meal, meet the people. It didn't really go to plan like that. We were going to a place in London called the Flight Club, which is it sounds silly saying it out loud, it's a darts themed pub. I know that all pubs seem to be darts themed because that's a pub game, but what they had was like normal bars, as you can imagine, but instead of just seating where you sit down and you have a chat, you were all sat facing a dartboard, and there was a computer tallying the scores. So we played a game called Killer, and I'm terrible at darts, and I know I am, and I just throw and hope. But in Killer, you have to hit a specific number, and you have to hit it 3 times to become a killer, and then you can kill other people. And everyone starts with no lives, so if they're killed, they're out. But if you've got to 3 and you're a killer, then someone has to hit you 3 times to kill you. So you have to be really good to hit someone 3 times and kill them. But I didn't understand the game and just never hit my number. I tried to hit my number. I think I hit it twice, not by design, by sheer luck. Got to 2 lives. Everyone else I was playing with was a killer, and they all felt sorry for me, so they all didn't kill me. And I ended up coming second because it was me versus the guy that invited us all, and he'd knocked everybody else out. And I was this close. I almost had an upset where if I'd have hit my name and then his name, I'd have won, because I'd have put myself to 3 and killed him in 2 darts. And I was thinking, I have no control over whether this happens or not. I can't aim because I'm rubbish. I can't not aim because I'm rubbish and it could hit it. So I just sort of threw the darts, and obviously I didn't succeed. But we changed it then to just trying to get the score from 180 down to 0 normal darts. And my team won that. I was in a duo with that one, and my random throwing was just fine because it meant that I was still chipping away at the score, even if I wasn't hitting particularly decent numbers. Everyone was aiming for 20 and hitting 1 and stuff like that. So whilst they were very close, I was aiming for literally anything on the board, and 1 minute I'd be hitting 20, then I'd be hitting something down here and something down there. So that was more fun, but we seemed to stick to Killer an awful lot in the night. It made me think, like, this is quite an interesting, like, I'm sort of going off on a side note from what I'd planned to say there, but London's the perfect place for this, because it's like, we had that one, and one of the guys said there's a ping pong one down the road, should we go to that afterwards? And I was just like, you'd never get that in Peterborough or Deep Inn or anything like that, because you'd go a couple of times and then you'd never go again. You'd just be bored out of your mind. So they'd have a constant churn of trying to find new people to come. Whereas London seems to have a whole million of these that are like, I remember going to a video game one in Leicester Square, which to be honest was owned by people that were a little bit, I don't know, they're a little bit like, because they were into their indie games and this and that, it all got a bit industrialized by the gaming snobs, and I don't know, it felt like you couldn't really just go in there and enjoy it. Whereas if it had been a pub, if there's a pub where you could just go in and play computer games, which there will be, I imagine. I haven't ever looked, to be honest, but I imagine that they'd be there and they'd be well worth going to, because that would be a bit of variation. You don't have to play the same games every time. You don't have to, you know, you don't have to. Sorry, I thought everything had gone off then. You don't have to sort of go and play darts and it's free variations of darts and we're done. You could just swap the disc out and it's a new experience. So they make sense to me. You can go and do that. You can even have a darts game on it if you want, if it's got a Connect or whatever, a bowling game. Everyone obviously goes to bowling alleys and they can drink there and play bowling, but the ping pong one sounded quite novel. Yeah, again, I don't see myself going 2 or 3 times and enjoying it every time. I think it would run out of steam. But it made me think, there's board game ones. We've got one of them in Peterborough. You know, there's loads of options, and these would only work in London, so you couldn't think, oh, I'm just going to start a darts pub. You'd have to go down there. You'd have to get the money together and go down to London and do it and see how it went. But these people that I was talking about with their fancy cars and clothes and whatever that have no responsibility, they love this. They'll hear someone's had an idea for a place. They all go off to it in big crowds. Once they've all done it and they're all bored of it, they all go to the next one. And it just seems like a mad life that they all live, that they all kind of float around these. They'll take people out and entertain them and run around. And I was pretty tired after, as you can imagine. I basically drank my weight in gin and beer. We didn't go out for dinner. I was gutted about that bit. That was pretty much the main, other than to see people, that was the main allure. That was the main thing that made me want to go, was the thought of having a steak with a friggin' giraffe on it or whatever, I don't know. Just to see what crazy situation I'd end up in with the food. But I ended up just kind of eating pizza that someone had ordered, and it was like table pizza and everyone could just have a bit. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to fill up because I know that we're not going anywhere now. It was a great laugh hanging out with my mates at work and that sort of thing. In the past when I've done these, it has been a bit drastic. I've got a terrible track record with like Christmas parties and stuff like that, where I'll end up drinking and then falling asleep or being sick. Or one time I got dropped in someone thought I was ill, so they walked me around the lake and then dropped me in a pile of stinging nettles, which was very painful. Because they thought they were helping me out. So I am nervous when I do it, but I was very well behaved. It was very good fun. It just, as I say, it makes me think. It makes me think I couldn't do that job. I couldn't do that for a living. But going back to the different pubs, I have always thought I wish I could start one. I wouldn't have anywhere to go with it. I wouldn't have any plan with it. I know loads of people who've looked at it. It was one of my things when I left teaching. I briefly looked at, there was a place in town for rent, and I thought I could rent it. And I don't know, I'm saying about these places not being able to function as normal. All the pubs in Deeping are struggling and worrying. And I think to myself, if they opened like they need to sort out their facilities, really. It'd be easy to have it more open and just have a coffee morning in there for mums and babies, and then like an old people meet up for lunchtime, or, you know, and then change it to something exciting in the night with a gimmick to it and swap the gimmick out every now and again. But it just seems like it'd be a rat race and it wouldn't work, as I say, because of the London thing. I also have to keep reminding myself that I would never go to it, even if there was one on my doorstep. Soon after I'd thought of looking at renting this place and doing this stuff with it and looking at whether it'd be an option, whether it'd be viable to get like a loan and start off whatever, and realising it really wasn't. Somebody had the exact same idea and did the same thing in Peterborough, but they did it as like a pop-up bar. And they were advertising the heck out of it, and it didn't really go anywhere. As far as I'm aware, I mean, I haven't really wandered that way. I could go into Peterborough and find that it's there and it's massive, but I think they tried it and it was a little bit of fun and games, but nothing really happened. There's a puzzle one there now that does quiz nights, puzzles and board games, but we did end up with a weird sort of scenario where games were suddenly being launched in pubs in Peterborough. There was a big, I think it was Defiance, when that came out as a game. They rented out the back room of a random pub in Peterborough and invited me and Kev along to see the big reveal of it all, and gave us an absolute ton of games to give away on the podcast and that. And I got well excited thinking that was going to be a regular thing that might happen in the area, but it never did. It's one of those where again, I grew up near London, and I think now living, I'm not even I'm only an hour away. It's probably just as close as it was when I was living in Grays, but being able to commute down and do that kind of thing is a big deal. It's interesting. It's weird thinking having been down there for the day. You could definitely. It's obvious why businesses get down there, but it just seems mad. It's such a busy, rush of a place, and I mean, I've been recovering from it today. I'm kind of rambling a bit now because I am just exhausted. I am just looking at the time, thinking I'm going to bed in like an hour. It's just been a really weird 24 hours. But no, theme pubs are quite funny, and I think that I'm amazed these people are able to forge a proper living out of it, because it just seems like the kind of thing that it will have to stop being a darts pub in like a year and become a something else pub, like a snooker pub. It would even work. They'd have to find a new gimmick. It couldn't stay darts for 10 years, surely. I just don't see that they'd have the foot through, whatever the word is, for people to just nip in. It's not the sort of thing you travel across London for, but it has made me think when we go out on these Eurogamer events and these Comic-Con events and all this, that and the other, we tend to just look for the place that sells the most amount of meat, and then we stay there. And I'm thinking I might have to try and convince the gang to start looking for places that have a bit of a fun and game to them. Maybe not darts or ping pong, but there's got to be other stuff. I'd love to hear people's ideas, suggestions, places they've heard of, places they have been to, recommendations of places I should go when I'm in Birmingham for Eurogamer at the end of the month. Because I'm thinking if there's one in Birmingham, I'll drag Kevin, Anna and Pab to it, because and Bouncy if he'll come, because it'd be good. At the moment we always end up in meat shacks, and it just seems a bit pointless to just smother ourselves in steak. And even though that was literally what I just said I wanted to do last night, I don't know what I want. I don't know what's good for me. I don't know what's for my own good. I do know I need to go out more. I do know that I need to be more up for stuff like that, because whilst it was exhausting, it was very, very good fun. And today was no worse for it, other than feeling a bit tired now. But I'll sleep well tonight, and hopefully that'll be the best I'll sleep in ages. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. Sorry I missed another day. I'll get back to normal service tomorrow. I feel a bit rusty, actually. I'm sat here trying to do this, and I spent ages setting up the light, and it doesn't feel right, and I'm blinding myself, and I've hesitated a few times in the video. It's weird how one day off does you. But yeah, normal service will resume. I'm wondering what the hell I'm going to do the weekend I'm at Eurogamer, because that's so hectic, and that's not far off towards the end of the month. I booked the Friday off so I can go down there early with the gang and do the games. So I've got plenty to talk about, but I don't know. I've got plenty of time to figure it out. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on theme pubs and stuff like that. Subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff. I noticed I gained 2 subscribers whilst I didn't do videos. Maybe people prefer it if I don't record. So it's very confusing. I don't know how it's happened every time. Maybe I should have the odd day off and just watch it go up 3 or 4. But no, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you tomorrow.